Go.
Hello, I'm a Mac, and I'm a PC. Action! 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 Zintite, you okay?
No, I'm not okay. I have that virus that's going around.
Oh, no.
You better stay back. This one's a doozy.
That's okay, I'll be fine.
No, do not be a hero. Last year there were 114,000 known viruses for PCs.
PCs, not Macs. So, just bear with me.
I think I got a crash. Hey, if you feel
That'll help. Good.
With all of the different Microsoft-based personal computers on the market, it's clear that one should have a better understanding of how an Apple computer is a better investment. This has relevance to you because so many computer users go in blindly without looking at the pros and cons of each different operating system. There are three main aspects we need to understand when knowing why a Mac is a better investment than a PC. First, how computer users are unsure what computer they should be using to accomplish everyday tasks. Then I will discuss how the high prices of Macs tend to turn people away without looking at quality. And I will conclude with why it is worth the extra money to invest in a Mac computer. Let me begin by defining the problem with computer users. Computer users are unsure if they should be using a Mac or a PC to accomplish their everyday tasks. Macs are overall a more easy to use database for its users. I think all of you in here are PC users. So I know that all of you have the start menu, and then you have programs, and you have the control panel. And a lot of people don't really even use those things, I know that, and a lot of the programs on there. With a Mac, everything you need is on the bottom of the screen. You have your Internet Explorer, you have your Microsoft Word, everything you need. And an article written by Glenn Duran in Popular Mechanics, he did tests on both Macs and PCs to see how they compared against each other. And the test showed that with the laptops, the Macs and PCs both ran about the same on the processors, and that's basically the speed of your computer. But with the desktops, the Macs completely outshine the desktop of a PC-based computer. So it proves that a lot of programs open faster. You can get your tasks done a lot easier on a Mac. And one thing with Mac computers, you're able to run both the Mac database and also the Windows-based database too, if users still want to be able to use their PC. It's a really good way for people who have had PCs to be able to come in and kind of get used to the Mac, and they can use the Windows and the Mac at the same time. Now that you understand how the Mac's database works, more efficient for its users, I will now discuss why consumers are more prone to buy a PC instead of a Mac. High prices of Macs versus the cheaper prices of PCs tend to make computer users buy the cheaper computer without looking at quality. With Windows PC, you get basically what you get when you pay only $500 or $600 into it. There's an article in Business Week magazine called Mac vs. PC, What You Don't Get for $6.99. And one of the points that it brings up, I know this because I helped my grandma pick out a computer, and they wanted her to, she needed to go get extra stuff and get all these programs taken off that they knew she wasn't going to use. Why did they put the programs on there in the first place if people aren't going to use them? With a Mac, you get it out of the box, you don't have to take any programs off, and you add what software you want to use on it. And with a Mac computer, you also have a much more secure firewall against viruses, as you saw in this campaign. And since most viruses are specifically targeted towards PCs. With these high prices of the Mac computers, the user should see that as a sign of quality. Despite its high price, it's worth the extra dollars to invest in the Mac computer. There's an article called Mac versus PC, Pros and Cons, and I read it and it showed that there are several more pros in buying a Mac instead of a PC. And I've stated most of them with the higher processor, with the viruses you get with a PC, and you don't get them as much with the Mac. And the Mac computer has a higher processor, like I said, and it gives its users easy access to programs with like the internet and the word processors. With its superior user interface and easy-to-use database, the Mac proves to be the best computer for users. With everything that's been stated, I will now put things into perspective. all the different Microsoft-based personal computers on the market, it is clear that one should have a better understanding of how an Apple computer is a better investment of money. Today I discuss with you 3 aspects of why a Mac is a better choice than a PC, beginning with defining the problem of inadequate users. Then we learn how, despite its cheap price, PC users are not getting a good deal. And finally, I discuss why it's worth your dollar to buy the Mac for its intricate yet simplistic database. So, who will you be? Do you want to be an outdated system that crashes and is virus-ridden? Or would you rather be a cool system that holds many possibilities for its users?
Okay. Want a creative gift idea for Christmas or even a birthday? Well, look no further than here and how to crochet a blanket. This is one that my grandma made.
Wow.
With the winter holidays approaching, hand making a blanket is a great idea for people of all ages. This has relevance to you because it's an inexpensive gift and it will be cherished for a long time by the person who is receiving it. There are 3 main steps in creating the blanket. First, how to start making the blanket. Then I will show you how to construct the middle of the blanket. And finally, I will demonstrate how to tie off the end of the blanket to finish the blanket. Let me begin with the basic steps of starting the blanket. First, I'll begin to start how to make the blanket. What you're going to do first, you're going to create a loop with your yarn. I'm not going to do that because I think that's really simple. It's not really too complicated to do. But I'm going to show you how to single crochet. And you have to hold your crochet hook correctly or else it will be really difficult for crocheting because that's one of the main things that you have to learn how to do. I'm really weird when I do mine. I like to tie it to hold it and keep the stress on it. Sorry. And you're going to create your first row for your blanket. This one already has some, so I'm just going to act like I'm creating it. And what you're going to do is you're going to you create the first row. You're going to crochet how many chains the pattern asks for. And to crochet the chain, you go under the thread with the hook, turning as you go, like this. And then you pull through the open loop right here, and that's your first chain. And you continue this until you have as many chains as you need. And most patterns, it just depends on however long the blanket's going to be. And so you just continue in that pattern until you have your first row. And now that we've begun our blanket, I will now show you how to double crochet for the middle of the blanket. I will discuss when you reach the end of your chain. I'm in the middle of it, I'm sorry. You're going to turn the chain opposite from you and go through the chain one time with the hook to make one loop. Next, you will follow the pattern that is given. For this pattern, it's double crochet, as you can see through all this. And there's some special things in there too, but the main thing is double crochet. And what you're going to do is you're going to loop your hook loop your hook under your chain, under the thread. Then you go into the top of the next chain, which is right here. And then you're going to take the hook around the thread and go back through. And you're going to wrap around the thread again. And you're going to take it through only 2 of the hoops. And you're going to have 2 chains. Then you're going to loop back around the thread and go through the rest of them. And there you have your first chain for your double crochet. And as long as that's what the pattern calls for, you're just going to continue going on like that until you've reached the end of the blanket. And this isn't finished, so now that your blanket is almost complete, we'll pretend it is, I will just demonstrate how to finish your blanket. What you're going to do, you're going to tie off the end of the blanket, and when you reach the end, you cut off about 6 inches of thread. I don't have scissors, so that'll work. And one of the easiest ways to do it is you tie a knot into the blanket, and you using the hook as if you're beginning a chain like this, and then you just tie it completely through and you make your knot, which is, if I can get all the thread through. And that's one really easy way. But if you're really meticulous and in case, you know, something happens to the blanket, then one thing you're going to want to do, you'll probably want to take the remainder of the thread though and weave it in throughout the entire blanket. That way, if there was something to happen to the blanket where, you know, if it did come undone, then you could take some of this thread and repair the blanket. So that's one good thing, that, you know, your blanket's not completely destroyed if something did happen to it. Okay, and with all of these points stated, I will now put things into perspective. With the winter holidays approaching, hand making a blanket is a great gift idea for people of all ages. Today I discussed with you 3 main steps in crocheting a blanket. First, how to start making the blanket. Then I showed you how to construct the middle of the blanket. And finally, I demonstrated tying the end off to finish your blanket. So what will you do this holiday season? Will you go to the store and pick up a gift for someone special, or will you take the time to make something that they will cherish for ages to come? Thank you.